I'm Daniel. I'm going to take this opportunity to launch a project which we finished last night, the website and everything. It's called fixbits.org. But in order to do the bit that I was asked, I will also talk a bit about the way I approach work, and particularly a project called Power of Making, which was curated for the Victoria and Albert Museum and Crafts Council of England. The title for the talk is Requiem or Renaissance, and it's a question I'm battling with in terms of how we see making, or the general attitude towards making and our dependency on making. Are we at the end of an amazing era in which mankind made, or, and in that sense, all we're doing now is a kind of requiem? Or are we in a period of a renaissance with amazing things happening which are going to change the way we see and live in the world? So this is kind of the overall title. What I do is I've been teaching or learning to teach design for a long time, and I enjoy it a lot, and I work with amazing people from all kinds of places, and that kind of I guess I ended up curating or teaching or designing in the same way, that using design to think about things. And we've seen amazing examples today. So for a while I ran a gallery in Covent Garden in London. It was kind of an amazing space right in the center of town, which, because it was not a commercial model, enabled a lot of experimentation with different types of storytelling, different content, exploring the borders of design, contemporary design. And as the years progressed, I got more and more interested in the way we design rather than the products. So also it was located in the Aram store, which is one of the leading retailing environment in London. So it had to be very different, but it also enabled the freedom of exploration. I'm very interested in trying out new formats of generating new content, but also talking about them. This was a project with the British Council a few years ago, commissioned to capture the Milan Furniture Fair and reflect the thing that happens in the street when people meet each other and they ask, so what's worth going to, and what did you think about that? Oh, that was terrible, don't waste your time. We try to use Twitter and Flickr and all these new emerging kind of modes of media of expression in an informal way online, but also physically. We produced, designed every night and produced 5,000 copies, distributed them in the morning, and during the next day produced it again, collected. As the days progressed, we got more and more users to generate the content, and it was a kind of map magazine of the events, but also a lot of people that couldn't attend had a way into the conversations, the informal side, rather than the press releases. These are different formats, some of them with other, I love to work with other people, so in a sense the collaboration always ends up forming the content. The Anti-Design Festival with Neville Brody, the Royal Society of the Arts, which are now doing a great project called Great Recovery, and each project just generates for me a new way, trying to find a new template, a new way of working, reaching new people, rather than repeating. Currently, I'm working for a few years with the Design Museum in London, looking at how the collection can become meaningful, and how using the mode of exhibiting design can become a way of understanding the impact of design on our life. So it's an attempt to check a new way of exhibiting a collection within context. We tried a few things a few years ago, which is positioning objects from the collection within contexts of political and local events, and trying to understand what makes something contemporary. It worked quite well, but it was more like walking through a book. So we learned a lot from that one. Other events that I get involved with are commissioning. I love commissioning because it's a dialogue. And it spawns new knowledge, it's a kind of mode of applied research commissioning from my point of view. It's the most exciting thing in it is the conversation at the beginning, forming the brief. Right, so that's a bit of background. Power of Making was an exhibition or a program that I was asked to look at contemporary issues of craft and maybe try and move the perception, update perceptions about craft. So I believe craft is everywhere in all industry, and it's one of the most important things that we need to understand in order to negotiate the future. And there is a whole different way of looking at craft, which is holding us back, which is looking at craft that way. And it's an amazing place to be asked to do a project, kind of a dream project for someone who's thinking about the importance of making and how do we make in our day-to-day, as well as how do people, masters that have been doing it for 70 years, are there similarities? Are there things that we can do today to reposition the value that makers have, or the value towards makers? So the brief, from my point of view, was the two institutes. And I went through to their original charter, and I found one sentence that appeared in the 1851 and also in the Craft Council kind of mission statement, and it was this: inspire future makers. And I suddenly realized also that's kind of what I've been doing, teaching 20 years, and the exhibitions that show prototypes and experiments. This is kind of, so can't miss on this, have to go for this really big, I guess, the biggest mission we all have. Power of Making was a relatively small exhibition, 300 square meters, but it became the most attended free exhibition in the history of the V&A. 320,000 people in 16 weeks. And that was way beyond the expectations. I was worried about the target of 100,000. And 320,000 means that it's at the entrance to the V&A, and we probably did a good job, but it's also something about the timing and what people care about. So since that exhibition, I've been thinking, would it have been the same 10 years ago, or is it now that it's particularly important? It kind of tried to cover the way we learn things and techniques, but also to link skill with imagination. So from very traditional skills, the first exhibit was a dry stone wall, which is amazing. The guy laid out the stones the night before along the whole hall. He looked at them, and we were waiting for him to start, and he kept on looking. And we were like, are you going to start? Oh, no, tomorrow. I'll come in tomorrow. So we went away. He came in the next morning, and he had figured out in his head which stones he was going to start with, and it was perfect. We missed him because he came really early, and he did a great job. But so that was the first exhibit, and the way he learned how to do it was from another person. The last exhibit was a series of 3D printers from the RepRap by Adrian Boyer, the first one, to current practice. I didn't have the Formlab, which just came out now. I would have. It's amazing. But again, the way people learn to use this is no longer through manuals. They, again, learn from people. The thing that has blocked us for many years, the screen that has blocked us from talking to people, has flipped, and we learn differently now. And you know, people go online to sort out a small thing or a big thing, and they meet another person through forums, through conversations. So learning has changed a lot, and we try to capture this idea of how do you learn skill now? Miniatures, things that have matured with age. You don't know who the particular designer is, but the decisions are amazing. And new technologies. This is done on screen with a haptic hammer on a little cushion, and then 3D printed. But it's a kind of raising. This is looks like a bent wood chair, doesn't it? But it's carved. So carving, this is an amazing CNC machine in Italy. The family has been making furniture, Mattiazzi, for years. And this big CNC, for them, it's another knife. The knowledge about the wood passes through the family. So how that knowledge is passed, we tried to capture in a film. A new guitar, and medical devices that are dependent on knowledge from craft. This is an embroidered element that is put in shoulder transplants. It's about this size. It's gorgeous. It looks like a snowflake. So that was the scope. And the issues that were kind of around were the issues that I think are very pertinent here. I'm part of a delegation from the British Council to come and learn and connect to other makers here. And we've been seeing that it's the same issues, different people, different issues, but actually not the current personal issues, but in terms of creative process and creative interest, these are the issues we're looking at. And making seems to be kind of some platform through which we can both share knowledge and demonstrate what we would like to happen. So, back to the Requiem or Renaissance question. So where are we now? How many people here feel that making is important to the general public? Not to you. To government. How many people think that making is important to government? And how do we change that? If we feel, and so many people feel, that making is important, and the people we've chosen to lead us and direct don't, how do we go about adjusting this imbalance? And maybe they're right. Maybe making is not important. Maybe the machine has not been around for 200 years, but it's only the beginning of a society and organization built around machines. Gideon Siegfried, in his amazing book, Mechanization Takes Command, in the 50s, talked about this whole, the way that we think by now, and that companies are organized like machines, but if someone doesn't show up for work, what do we ask? What's wrong with them? They're like a part. What's wrong with that part? It's not how they're feeling, what happened. It's what's wrong with them. And that's kind of a machine logic which I believe we need to get rid of. And I think it's happening, even in industry, because we've seen user-centric design. We're seeing mass customization. We're seeing all kinds of elements, co-creation, collaboration, all kinds of elements that are putting the person in the center. So in that sense, we're at the beginning of a renaissance. So that's the question. I don't have an answer, but I think it's important to deal with this question now and to position yourself, if you can, on one of the sides. So the issues, the key messages, and I work in a kind of, on the one hand, I get excited about the 3D printer, the material, but at the same time, I kind of develop the key messages that have to lead an exhibition. What's the exhibition for? And these were the key messages for Power of Making. And Fixperts, which is the project I'm doing now, is a kind of an applied version that came out of some of the frustrations from that exhibition. I was looking a lot at skills and how we learn skills and what needs to happen for someone to be an expert. But also, at the same time, I think, and this is where design education often falls, there is a split between learning skills and developing imagination, or the respect for imagination, or the respect for a process that enables imagination. And I think there is one thing that is the most difficult, which is to be in a situation where you don't know what's happening. And for me, that's one of the rarest, and not just that, to be in a situation where you don't know what's happening, but to keep going. To be able to continue working when you don't know, to use what you have in order to progress. And that's a very special situation, which is usually tried to, when we learn a skill, it's kind of locked down. And one of the mistakes of early craft and making education is that we're given things to do, the things, not the way. And this is one big shift that is very easy to do, is to teach people the way to do things, not to teach them to do things. So no more, I don't know how many people made a toast holder or a sign for the door, or what else? These kind of, now, last year in the UK, all the children were asked to do, guess what? An Olympic logo. Why not teach them about circles, and they can do with the circles whatever they care about? Curriculums, I think, would benefit from looking at activity and not results. So some of the things I started collecting, and I wanted to exhibit about 700 things that I thought were really amazingly made, or an imaginative use of skill. But 700 things is a lot. So I had to find a way of looking at them. And I started splitting them into the way we make things. And that's easy, because you can shape a material, you can use subtraction, or you can use addition. And anything you hold or use is made in these three ways. So I wanted to get into this and capture what's happening today. And one of the ways I work a lot is look at all the YouTube films of makers. There are hundreds and thousands, amazing makers that just kind of, or experiments, and this became a strong element. So a lot of people came, and when they came in, the exhibition invited them to walk around an unknown city instead of taking them along a specific route. But every group of things had a focus, a certain technique, a certain color, a certain reason for being, some thread to start you thinking. And the three terms I tried to really find in each object are meticulous making, expression, strong expression, and any signs of ingenuity. So an important part of this was a whole area about DIY and making things from other things, meshing digital with the physical. And we made this film, which is 14 different studios. And the film was based on, and also the title of the exhibition has a strong relationship with The Powers of 10, this 1968 film by the Eames, which is all about the connectivity of the smallest to the biggest, and from one person's skill to the knowledge that we all have access to, or should. So this film really goes all the time from the small to the large. We had a maker space called Tinker Space, which we ran a series of workshops on the principle that we wanted a fab lab there, but you can't have a fab lab in a museum. People don't, you need a community for that. So we tried to take some parts of it, and the exhibits also were used as a maker, as a workshop space. Demonstrations or different ages, and what we discovered is that there are people who tuck in, but there are a lot of people who like to look at other people making. And that observation has become something very important for Fixperts. So Fixperts is an initiative together with a designer called James Carrigan. He's also co-founder of an amazing material, a company that produces a material called Suguru. And together we've been thinking about how to get fixing back on the agenda, because for me, if making is a type of thinking, fixing is a type of making as well. And it's a very accessible one, and one that we need to, I think, embrace. So Fixperts.
Fixing is a way of fixing.
Fixing is a way of thinking.
So the big idea is to connect designers with people who could do a little help in their lives. Disabled people, old people, indeed anybody. And it's interesting to think what kind of impact a designer can make on somebody's life in about an hour and a half. What can they do with their hands and pocket money?
Well, the idea is to use fixing as a miniature process of design, but if you get into it, you can really discover the creative and social values of design.
Frida is disabled in a wheelchair and broke the joystick on her wheelchair, and I helped her fix that. She wasn't able to fix it, and people around her also had difficulty in trying to repair it. But the challenge was quite easy for me, and that's because I'm a trained product designer. I'm trained to think in problem solving. But I think what's more interesting there is the fact that people aren't in the habit of fixing anymore. I think quite often people forget how to fix or don't think of it as an option. What if we connected designers with people? What can a designer do? How can they help people learn to fix again?
The people that make, we call
Experts.
and they work together with their
Partners.
yeah, and they identify a problem or something to improve in the fixed partner's life. The fixpert then goes away, has a thing, comes back to try something out.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is that it's all about ingenuity, flexible thinking.
It's a pilot film we made in September, and we said, we'll make a few films, we'll see the reactions. We had an amazing reaction. We did 4 films. We were, I think, inundated with about 60,000 different blogs in different countries. We kind of did the map of the Twitter followers. We were like, okay, we have to do it. We can't ignore this. We now have 27 films. 2 of them arrived from Canada yesterday, but last week we got the first ones in a different language, which was very exciting, from Warsaw. The production levels vary, the type of problem, the people that are identified vary, but it's a kind of formula that people are starting to pick up, and we want to invite people to join and help us, not help us, really just use this as a resource. So in order to do a fixed film, you need a kind of storyteller, which is a filmmaker. You need a maker that can think together with the fixed partner what they can do for them. It's a quick turnaround. It's not a beginning of a big project. It's something that can happen with one conversation, one prototype, and then something's happened already. So this is some of the reactions we got very quickly, and it just spread. And last night, the guys finished a new website. There are kind of guidelines of how to do a film, and what is a fixpert and what is a fixed partner. It's very early days. We don't know how far it can go, but we've seen this guy did an intubation holder for a cyclist, kind of first response cyclist. This cyclist told a friend, they made 3. This happened 3 weeks ago. Now the London Ambulance Service has ordered 50 from a BA student's second year. So that is a great model for us. Two communication students, third year, Kingston University. This is their first object product as well. So and this is the first time they've come out, and they met Edna in the area so it was run in the university, but the brief was go and meet someone in the community, connect to someone, do something. And we've had 11 films from Kingston University. You can see them all online. So this project is dedicated to an amazing master fixpert who did this all his life. And I learned from him this kind of approach, a professor of design called Ami Drak, amazing industrial designer, but every morning he used to stop by a cafe and fix things for people on the way to work for about 20 years. Last thing, which is this website, which is Fixperts, which we finished last night, which if you visit or you think someone you know should visit, you just click on Get Involved and you can upload a film or connect. Or if you're a company that wants to work with Fixperts or an organization, and if you are a big conference that would maybe allow us to present it, we'd love to do that. Thank you.